change is not something that happens in an instant. You have to understand that if it took you 30, 20, 40, 50 years, depending on how old you are, to form certain patterns, to form certain habits, don't expect that it's going to take you 2 days to break those habits. Before change becomes an outworking, it is first an inworking. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Life Lessons with Law. My name is Loretta Gerard, and if you are just coming across this podcast for the first time, you are most welcome. Or maybe you're just watching us on YouTube, watching me on YouTube for the first time, you are most welcome. And if you are a returning listener or subscriber, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to sit here and have these conversations with you. I feel so honored and so blessed that I get to do this. I totally enjoy it. I totally enjoy bringing you guys these, very important, critical, and sometimes fun. Well, most times fun conversations. So today, I want to talk about change. But just before I get into the episode, if you are watching on YouTube, please do not forget to hit that subscribe button and like this video, and also leave your comments if you're also watching on Spotify, just so that I can get your thoughts and I can get, your reaction to some of the things that I'll be sharing. All right. Thank you so much as you do that. So talking about change, and the reason why I thought this is something that is worth having a chat about on the podcast is because I've just been reflecting on change and the psychology of change, especially in human beings. And we all know we know what they say about change. Change is the one thing in life that is constant, where everything is changing. I mean, the caterpillar becomes a butterfly, the snake sheds its skin, and things like that. We're constantly going through, nature is constantly going through change, right? And even the same goes for human beings. Like the baby crawls, and from crawling, the baby walks. From walking, the baby starts to run. So we are constantly going through these different cycles of change as we go through life. So yeah, of course, it's correct that change is the one thing in life that is constant. But I've been thinking about changing one's behavior, changing one's mindset, and just the fact that a lot of times the difference between where you are and where you want to be is the change that needs to be made. Maybe in your thought process, maybe in your habits, maybe in the way you do things, maybe in the way that you speak, or maybe in the way that you dress, or maybe in the way that you approach your work. A lot of times the difference between people that are successful and people that are not successful, well, depending on how you define success, is that some people are willing to embrace change more than others. So, my name is Ichiro, and that it's an Igbo name. So I come from the southeastern part of Nigeria. So I'm Igbo. My father is from the southeastern part of Nigeria, and Ichiro means safe journey. And it's I actually like it when people call me Ichiro or when people call me IJ. And don't worry, I am not digressing. You will get my point in a second. I actually like it when people call me IJ because it is a reminder to me that I am on a journey. And it's a reminder to me that life is a journey, right? And so when people call me IJ, it brings me back to that space where I'm cognizant of the fact that, I'm actually on a journey. The reason I say this is not to do some kind of expose on my name, but it's just to highlight the fact that life is a journey. We are on this journey called life, and it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. right? And I say this because when I have these conversations and when I come in here to have these conversations, it's not because I'm coming to you as an expert, or not because I want to position myself as some kind of expert in all things that pertain to pertain to life. I do not come to you as somebody who has it all figured out. I do not come to you as someone who's perfect. I do not come to you as someone who has all the answers. I do not come to you as someone who doesn't slip back into old patterns once in a while. I do not come to you as someone without struggles. I do not come to you as someone who is just perfect in all her ways. I'm not God, right? I come to you as someone on a journey. And the essence and the reason why I call this podcast Life Lessons with Law is to share some of the things that I'm learning on my journey, to take you on that journey with me so that we can grow together, so that we can learn together. I always say that the goal is progress. The goal is not perfection. So I'm not here to teach you how to be perfect. I'm not here to teach you how to have all the answers, because I don't. I'm here to just share some of the things that I am learning in the hopes that we can learn and grow together. And I said all of that to say that I am also in a process of change. I am also going through that process of evolution. So I am evolving, I am becoming, right? And change is something that has become a crucial part. Embracing change has become a crucial part of my journey. And I know that it's also a crucial part of yours as well. So what makes change difficult? I think, to be honest, I think that change is difficult because we are afraid. Change is difficult because we are limited by our humanity. So I think a lot of times the reason why we are scared of change, the reason why we are scared of doing things a different way, is because we think, or because we cannot see what's on the other side of it. It's because by our mortality and by the fact that we are not omniscient, right? We are not all seeing. We can't see what's on the other side of change. And so it is a lot safer to stick to what you know than to try something else. And of course, it is your brain's way of protecting you. Your brain would rather do something that is safe and comfortable to keep you alive than have you take risks, right? But one thing that I have come to realize is that the risk is where the change happens. I just started reading this book by Caroline Dweck. It's called Mindset. And one of the first things that jumped at me when I started reading this book was she was making a case about, she was doing an analysis about the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. The difference between the people who have gone ahead of us, or the people who seem to be doing much more better, or the people who seem to be making waves, the people who seem to be a lot more successful than the rest of the world, is that they have a growth mindset. And a growth mindset is all about your perception to life, your perception to the challenges that life might throw at you. This is what separates the wheat from the chaff, right? This is what separates the people who go ahead to do great and mighty things in the world from people who played safe all their lives and end up doing nothing. And it reminds me of what Brene Brown said in the quote that she in her book Daring Greatly, the quote the quote that the book is founded on, and it talks about the people in the arena, the people who dare greatly, the people who actually regardless of the challenges, are courageous enough to and brave enough to step into the arena, there is something they know that the average person doesn't know. And I've come to the realization that change begins here. The Bible is perfect, and the Bible says that as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. The Bible, just by saying that, is alluding to the fact, is pointing to the fact that any change that you want to see will begin from here. It will begin from here. And the truth is that a lot of us want better. A lot of us want things to change for the better. A lot of us want our life to take a positive turn, right? And that's why you see people at the beginning of the year, they are creating New Year resolutions, setting goals for the new year and things like that. And if you watch my video, the very first video that I posted at the beginning of the year, where I was talking about the fact that I stopped setting New Year resolutions. One of the things that I said in that video was that the time you wake up, that is your morning. And this is an African proverb. Anytime you wake up, that is your morning. If you wake up September 1, that is your opportunity to begin again. If you wake up January 25th, that is your opportunity to begin again. If you wake up April 15th, if you wake up December 31st, then that is an opportunity for you to begin again. Essentially, the point I made in that video and the point I'm trying to make right now is that people change when their desire to change becomes greater than their desire to remain the same. Change happens when you decide to change. And I remember, and this is just a good segue to drop this in here. There's this issue and this matter that has been going on in Nigeria, Nigeria entertainment, where this particular celebrity has been in the news and the blogs lately, and people have been making fun, making light. Well, people have just been throwing shades, kind of, about the fact that this particular celebrity, when her frontal lobe developed, that her eyes opened. Something just happened once that frontal lobe just woke up. And it's the same. Something happens when your mindset changes. Something happens when your mind goes through significant transformation, positive transformation. And that's why I said that change begins here. It begins in your mind. It begins in your mind. That is why the Bible says that you should guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Everything starts with the mind. Even the Bible also says that do not be conformed to the patterns of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Essentially, nothing is going to change if your mind remains the same. Like, your life will not change. You cannot expect to have new results from old patterns. How do they define insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result, right? Your mind, see, some of the greatest people in the world, some of the the heroes of the world, there's something about them. There's a way their mind operates. I like listening to people like Chimamanda, people like Oprah Winfrey, people like Michelle Obama. These are women that I respect. People like Priscilla Shira, like Joyce Meyer, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. People, Debola Dejikurumi, people like that, women like that, because when you listen to them, they all have something in common. They might be different, they might have different values, they might have different perspective to things, but they have something in common. There's a common denominator, there's a common thread. It's their mindset. There's a way they think. There's a way, like, there's something about the way they think that influences how they show up in the world. And when I came to this realization, something shifted in my mind. As I said, I'm still going through my own process of evolution. I am still working on my mindset, so I'm not claiming to have arrived. But I'm telling you that even with the little that I have come to know over time, I can vouch and I can testify that something changes in you once you get the right mindset. Something changes in your life. Something changes in the way you approach life. I've told this story on this podcast and on my channel about, I've told my story, the fact that I was sexually abused as a child and growing up in dysfunction, and how that kind of marred my thinking and even my self-esteem for much of my life. I wrote a whole book about it. I'm going to put the link to the description if you want to get that book, You and Your Self-Esteem. I talk about all of that in details. But for a large portion of my life, I was so bonded to my trauma that my trauma influenced, I don't want to call it my trauma anymore, but the trauma, because I'm not claiming it, it's not mine. But the trauma influenced much of my perspective to life, influenced my approach to relationships, influenced my approach to practically everything that I did. Everything, every decision was dependent on that trauma or traumatic mindset. So, and it really impacted my life. I battled with severe depression for most of my life, most of my, teenage years and up until my adult years. But when I began to reflect and really take the time to work on my mind, I began to see changes. The things that I used to take, the things that I would previously swallow, people would treat me in certain ways, and I would swallow it because I felt that that was, that was my way of, so that they can love me. I'll stick with people disrespecting me just because, so that I can get their validation, right? And so I began to see those patterns and I began to see change. And so people would treat me in a particular way, but rather than stay and swallow it, I will remove myself quickly, because feeding myself with the right information and working on my mindset began to help me build my sense of self-worth. I began to see from the books that I read and from the insights and the revelation from the Word of God that I have worth, and that whatever happened to me as a child doesn't define me. I began to see that I am accepted in the beloved, that I am loved by God. I began to see. So when, that shift began to happen, I began to see myself in a completely different light. And the things that I used to swallow, I no longer swallowed, right? So change, before change becomes an outworking, it is first an inworking. And so a lot of times people are so bothered about the external activity that, the external, I'm changing, I want to change. And they start doing things externally without first fixing what is wrong internally. And what happens at the end of the day, when you are focused on the external, when you are focused on the doing, you at the end of the day reverts. Because what fuels that change, what fuels that outworking of change, is what is on the inside. It is that thing and that seed on the inside, that seed that has been planted on the inside, that will continue to produce when all the motivation and all the gra fades away. So if maybe you're watching this and you're beginning to think about, oh, I need to, new year, new me. As this year is coming to an end, I need to change. Sister, don't wait for the new year. If you want to change, start now. No, see, and I'm gonna do maybe a similar video during the new year. And I'll keep saying the same thing I've always said. The new year doesn't change anybody. Just because the year is new doesn't mean that you're going to be new. The same old you is gonna be stepping into the new year. So if you want to change, if you want to begin to take positive steps, start now. Start today, not tomorrow, not the day after, not the new year. As I said, the African proverb, anytime you wake up, that is your morning. Right? So, yeah, don't wait for the year to change before you change, right? And don't be so focused on the externals. Start from the inside. One of the things that I realized when I began to study my own patterns is that a lot of the things that I do and the things that I don't do are tied to how I see myself. And so, coming to that realization, I figured that if I'm going to be able to produce anything, I must work on the mind that produces that thing. A lot of times, the reason why we can't do stuff is because we have not yet fixed that mindset of inferiority, that inferiority complex, that low self-esteem, that fear, that insecurity that is within us. So at the end of the day, we just end up feeling like failures. We end up feeling like, oh, I can't achieve this thing, or maybe I can't change. Maybe it's just impossible for me to change. But change is not impossible. You can change if you decide to change, and if you go and work on the mindset that is able to produce that change, right? And listen, change is not something that happens in an instant. You have to understand that if it took you 30, 20, 40, 50 years, depending on how old you are, to form certain patterns, to form certain habits, don't expect that it's going to take you 2 days to break those habits, right? Your mind is elastic. Your mind is able to learn new things, right? But it's going to take time. It took time to build those bad habits. It took time to build those limiting beliefs. It's going to take time for those things to dissipate, right? And it's one of the things that I see a lot of people, and me inclusive, I've had those moments where I'm trying to change, I'm trying to do better, I'm trying to fix one or two things in my life, and I still find myself slipping back into old patterns. And then because I'm slipping back into old patterns, I'm tempted to give up because I'm like, look, maybe I can never change. But you can't change. Like psychologists there's something called the neuroplasticity, I think, of the brain, where every day there is your brain cells regenerate, something like that, you know. It's just like when the Bible says that the mercies of God are new every morning, right? Just think about the fact that every morning and every single day that you wake up, your brain is able to learn new things. Your brain is able to take on new things. Your mind is elastic. Your mind can stretch. You can learn new things. You can shift patterns. You can change old ways of thinking, but it's going to take time. So you have to be willing to bet on yourself. You have to be willing to invest the time, and you have to be willing to give yourself grace, right? And so, yeah, like I said, sometimes when I find myself falling into those old patterns, I get tempted to think that, oh, I'm not changing, or maybe I cannot change at all, or maybe this will never work. But it took me 30 something years, those feelings of low self-esteem, that feeling of fear, that excessive people pleasing, that seeking external validation, that excessive overachieving, right? Tying my sense of self-worth to my performance and things like that. It took me 30 plus years for those habits to be formed. It's gonna take a bit of time. It will take time. So you have to show yourself grace. Like I always say, and I said at the beginning of this video, of this episode, the goal is not perfection. When you are chasing perfection, you will burn out. The goal is not perfection. The goal is progress. The goal is that you are making progress in the way that you think, and you are taking baby steps. Like if you watch babies, there's a way babies behave. If you watch babies, you'd see that the baby might be trying, if a baby is trying to crawl, for example, or trying to walk, the baby will crawl, stand, and fall. But the baby doesn't say, oh no, I give up. I can never do this. I've tried so many. The baby will go back. The baby will try again. It shows you something. There is something that has been hardwired. God has put it in us. Because if babies can depict that sense of trying again, it means that if we give up on ourselves too easily, it is not God that put that mindset in us. Something in our socialization process did that, but not God. Because watching babies shows you, and the way that they make mistakes, they fall, they stand up again, they go back again, they try again. It shows you that this is something that has been hardwired into us by God biologically, but somewhere along the line we lose that wonder. Somewhere along the line we lose that tenacity as a result of our experiences, as a result of the things that we see around us, as a result of the cultures of the world, as a result of our socialization process, right? So yeah, give yourself grace. Allow yourself to fall, make mistakes, but pick yourself up every single time, knowing that this is a marathon, you're on a continuum. It's not a sprint, and it's going to take you your whole life. But the most important thing is that you are changing. What is worse is you not even taking that risk at all. If you exercise or if you go to the gym, this is something that would be, this example would make sense to you, because when you go to the gym, you realize that the more you lift, when you went to the gym for the first time and you need to lift like 2 kg dumbbells. I do Pilates, so we do the dumbbells things and the Pilates things. I don't do the hardcore gym. I love my Pilates. Shout out to all my Pilates girls. If you're watching me on YouTube and you are a Pilates girl, please leave a comment for me. Leave a comment. Yeah. Shout out to all my Pilates girls. Reformer Pilates girls. Anyway, so if you maybe at Pilates, you start on maybe you need to do lunges, for example, and you start on a very light spring, right? At first, it's going to seem very difficult. Or maybe you have to do some of the exercises that require you using dumbbells, and you lift maybe a 2 kg dumbbell. It's going to seem very difficult. But the more you do it, the lighter, those springs that seemed heavy to you before will seem light to you. And then you get comfortable with that. However, you then realize that if you do not challenge yourself and go up to the harder, heavier springs, you might end up just being comfortable, and your body might not have changes. You might not just see changes in your body physically. So that stretch of trying the heavier spring is where the growth happens. So what I'm saying in essence is that a lot of times the challenge is where the growth happens. It's your perspective to challenges that matter. And this is something that I am learning myself, because a lot of times I realize that over time my perspective to challenges has been fear, or avoiding it altogether because I'm afraid that I might fail. And when you are an overachiever, one thing that you fear the most is failure. But maybe we need to take a step back and redefine what failure means, right? Failure means that, maybe there's a better way to do it. But the fact that you failed at something doesn't make you a failure. There's a difference between separating there's a way you can separate yourself from the result, right? So the fact that I failed at something doesn't make me a failure, right? My worth is extricated from the results, right? So, yeah, so when you have this mindset and you see failure as, oh, this is as an opportunity to learn, as an opportunity to grow, that is where the growth happens. That is where change happens. And reading Caroline Dweck's book, one of the things that she mentioned in that she saw in her research was the difference between people with a fixed mindset and with a growth mindset is that the people with a growth mindset embrace challenges. They see it as, oh, this is a hard task. Let's see how we can tackle it. They welcome challenges. They don't see it as the end of their life, right? They see it as, okay, what's the worst that can happen? The worst that can happen is that I might not succeed at this. And if I don't succeed at it, I'm going to try again. Wasn't it Aliyah that said, what you don't succeed, don't give up, try again. So rather than you just stay in what is safe, how about you challenge yourself and do what is hard, right? Start with your mind. This is where the change happens. I know that I've said this multiple times, but I promise you, it is one of the best things that you can do for yourself. One of the books that I read that just helped me get started with this mindset shift was, oh my gosh, I've read a number of books now. They're all coming to my mind. Battlefield of the Mind by Joyce Meyer. I have to go and read that book again. That's a book that you have to keep reading and reading and reading. If you're a Christian, definitely read that book. But if you want something that is not religious, read The Mountain Is You. That book, I don't remember the name of the author now. Is it Brene? I don't remember. But I read that book like a few years ago, and it completely changed my life. I have to go and get the hard copy of it now that I just remembered. I have to read that book again. And then there is also Daring Greatly by is it Daring Greatly that is called? This book by Brene Brown. I'll check. But yeah, that book by, I think it's called Daring Greatly by Brene Brown. That's also another good book. There is also The Courage to Be Disliked. I don't remember the name of the author of that one. I listened to that one on audiobooks, on Audible. So, get information. The Bible says wisdom is the principal thing. In all thy getting, get wisdom, get understanding. Look, something happens when your mind changes. Like this is where it starts. Before you start doing, oh, I want to wake up five. Start from here. Start, like, what is that limiting belief that is making you revert to those bad habits? What is that limiting belief that is making you revert to old patterns, that is making you do, that is where you start. That is where you begin to unravel. That is where expose it, get the right information. Like the importance of getting the right knowledge cannot be overemphasized. Change begins from here. Change begins from your mind. If there's any positive thing that's going to happen to you, that's going to happen in your life, it's going to have to start from how you think. Again, the Bible says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so he is. And changing your mindset, that is a choice. God is not going to come down from heaven, from his throne, and come and change you. Everybody has a choice. Everybody has a choice. Life and death. Choose life. It's always a choice. You choose what you want to feed your mind. You choose how you want the kind of perspective you want to have to life. Do you want to have a fixed mindset, or do you want to have a growth mindset? Do you want to be emotionally intelligent, or do you want to be emotionally immature? Do you want to see challenges as an opportunity to learn and stretch, or do you want to see challenges as a death sentence, or maybe not a death sentence, as okay, nothing I can do about it? Do you want to stay safe in your comfort zone, or do you want to step out into the arena and dare greatly? Think about it. Because at the end of the day, the choice is yours. Nobody is going, I always say this, nobody is coming to save you. Nobody is coming to save you. I'll say it one more time. Nobody is coming to save you. So the choice is yours. The choice is yours. Change begins with your mind. It's a marathon, it's not a sprint. It's a journey. It will take your whole life. And if you're already on the journey of becoming a better version of yourself, I want you to know that it's gonna take time, right? My father always reminds me of something. He always says, Rome was not built in a day. Rome wasn't built in a day. So unlearning certain thinking patterns, certain thought patterns will not happen in a day. It's going to take you a bit of time. It's going to take you time. So show yourself grace. When you find yourself falling into or slipping into old patterns, show yourself grace. Sometimes I find myself thinking in certain ways and I'll be like, but I thought I was already past this. Why is this resurfacing? Right? And sometimes I take that as feedback to myself that, okay, maybe this part of me still needs healing. Maybe I need to go and learn more. Maybe I need to go and learn, or maybe I need to go and talk to God about it, right? But sometimes when you find yourself slipping back into old patterns, instead of giving up altogether, see it as an opportunity to probably learn more about that area of your life where you're slipping back to. Maybe there's something in there that you need to explore and you need to heal, right? But yeah, I hope you found this episode useful. I hope you learned a thing or two. But let me know what you think in the comments. If you have any book recommendations that you'd say or that you think can really help people shift their thinking and change their thinking patterns for the better and change. I know Atomic Habits is one of them, but if you have other book recommendations, please leave them in the chat. In the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube or on Spotify. And if just let me know, also let me know your thoughts. What do you think about change? And have you ever tried to change something about yourself or tried to change something in your life? How did that go for you? What are some of the lessons that you have learned? I can't wait to hear from you and also learn from you. All right, so on that note, we have come to the end of this episode. I hope you really enjoyed it and I hope you found it totally worth it. If you're watching on YouTube, please do not forget to slam or smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, share this with your friends, your sisters, your girlfriends, your wives, your brothers, even though this is specifically for the women, but yeah, okay, if you think the guys can also learn from this as well. But I hope you found this useful and insightful and you found the information valuable. Thank you so much for choosing to hang out with me. I am immensely grateful. You have no idea what it means. I know what it means to spend your time listening to someone and paying attention. Paying, because it's a payment, it costs something. So it does mean the world to me when you take the time to listen to what I have to say. And I will always try as much as possible to make sure that it is worth your while, because I understand that it's costing you your attention. So I'll do my best to ensure that every time that I show up here, there is something interesting to learn, or we just have a lot to laugh about and we just have a really good time, and it's just a happy conversation. All right, but thank you so much. Really grateful. Thank you. And I'll see you again in my next episode. Bye.